This video is to show you how to build a screen registration guide. A screen registration guide is poor man's pin registration. You can build this yourself in 10 minutes. I hold the patent on pin registration system, but there are certain requirements for pin registration or even a screen registration guide to be successful. For one thing, the mesh has got to be really tight in the screen, and the screen itself has got to be rigid. If the mesh is loose, you could have the best pin system or screen registration guide, but with that mesh moving around inside the frame, you'll have a registration problem. So that's why we use retensionable frames. These frames allow us to create very, very tight mesh, so the mesh is not going to shift. So that's an advantage to these frames. So you also have to have a machine where the platen's not flexing or moving around on you, because that would be a registration problem, or the color arm moving within the registration gate. But if you can meet those requirements, then you're all set. Now, here's how we make the screen registration guide. We just took a frame, I measured across, found the center point at 3, and I connected them and drew a line, and did the same thing here, finding the center. So I have a cross that's dead center on the screen. The next thing I did was I built the screen registration guide, which is simply a piece of particle board or plywood, and I took a piece of furring strip and used some screws to affix the furring to the board. And then I laid my screen down on the plywood, pushing the screen against this furring strip, and then I used the screen to locate the second furring strip, and then I screwed that down into the board. So every time I lay a screen here, it will be exactly in the same place. Next thing that I did was I got a piece of lined paper. It's got all these blue lines on it, and I drew a cross on that paper, and then with my screen up against these bars, I push the paper underneath the screen so that I get the cross on the paper to match to the cross in the screen. And at that point, I just tape the paper down to the board, and I laid a clear piece of plastic over the paper, and I taped that down with just plain packing tape. So when I put my screen down, my crosses line up exactly. In fact, when you write those, draw these lines here, you may want to draw some extra lines like I did to make it easier to see the graph. That way when I lay down, like I have a positive down here now, I know that I have an image that's, say, 4 blocks to the right of center and 4 blocks to the left of center, as well as the image being parallel to one of the lines. So it helps you to center the art. You at the same time might want to draw on the paper where, for example, a sleeve image might go. Or I have an image here for caps, because I would put a cap frame right here, the thin bar goes here, the roller goes here, and I can lay my cap image down. I also have a little note to myself that when I'm printing transfers, to put the positive on upside down so I don't forget. Okay, now I have my image, my positive, and I've laid it down on the screen registration guide. I've got it all lined up, and I just use 2 pieces of Scotch tape to locate and to keep it in place. Now I have my second positive, which I'm going to register to the first using my registration marks in the corners and my artwork. Make sure I'm happy with it, and I use plain Scotch tape to tape the second positive down to the screen registration guide. Okay, now I have 2 positives down, and this is double stick Scotch tape. It's got adhesive on both sides, and I put 1-inch strips in the 4 corners of the top positive. Then this screen is not coated, and I'm also in white light. But I would then take a coated screen, push it against the 2 bars, and then close the screen down on top of the top positive and push on that double stick Scotch tape. That way, when I pick up the positive, it's sticking to the bottom of the screen. And then these two little pieces of Scotch tape I was using to hold the positive, the screen registration guide I'll remove, but the double stick Scotch tape now has the positive in place. And now I'm able to take the screen to go exposed. Now if I want to make a screen of the second positive, I do the same thing. I put 1-inch pieces of double stick tape in the four corners, take my second screen, butt it up against these two bars, close the screen down, push on the double stick tape, and then pick this one up. I can do as many as I want, and all these images will be exactly in the correct place when I go to the press. Now, if you want to laminate films, that is, put more than one piece of capillary film on a screen, then if I wanted to make have a thick deposit of ink for, say, this particular image, what I'd have to do is have two positives that are identical. So you would lay one on top of the other, an exact registration, tape it down, put the double stick tape on the four corners, pick this top copy up off and go expose the screen. When that screen's been exposed, I remove the positive from that screen, bring it right back here. I know exactly where to locate it because the other copy is still there. And then I would repeat the process. So I'd pick this positive up with the second piece of capillary film that's on the screen. And you can put as many sheets of capillary film on the screen as you wish. Screen registration guide is a goof-proof way of having your images always in the correct spot. You should never take a ruler to measure where a positive goes on a screen, because inevitably you put the positive on crooked or too high or too low. You may have exposed the screen perfectly but not be able to use the screen in the press because the image is not placed correctly within the screen. Using this method, the screen registration guide, it'll be perfect every time and you never remake a screen. This is a 10-minute project. It'll save you lots of time and lots of money. If you have any questions, give